Dito ra ka ko. Dito ra ka be.
Ay, nag-defend sa inyo nga karon?
Yes, ma'am, kami.
Sa makasulod lang, kinagingon naman sa ko kay Ma'am Silva gapon nga magklase ko sa inyo ha. So sa makasulod lang, katong nag-defense, kung dili sila makasulod, then that's okay. Mag-catch up na lang sila. Makita naman sa internet na to ang material karon. Nakuha? Nakuha? Daisy Low? Pwede ra ka dili mo appeal sa Daisy Low pag-focus sa imong kuan, sa imong defense. Our
Thank you.
material today naras sa kuan, naras sa internet.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, you're welcome. How about sa polite na sa inyo ha? Between 10:15 to 11:15 na yung mag-defend sa inyo ha, polite? Wala, okay. I'll take this as wala ha. Okay, so ang victorious ra na ikuan.
Itu ra kabikin ng klase na. Kuya. Itu ra kabab. May tao. May tao. Wala si mama.
Morning, everyone. We have 3 minutes before our class starts. Please tell your classmates nga mosulod na if wala pa sila. Thank you. Ay, na nag-chat. Wala. Ala, ang attendance ninyo, Kawili. Miss Kawili, ang attendance bitaw ninyong tulo kay isa rasad. Ang attendance nga mo reflect sa ako ang attendance generator kay iya Kawili ra. Mag-warning lang ko daan ha. Para kay Ajay o
Yes,
Kishaya
ma'am.
o Kawili. Oh, sige, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So 2 minutes before we start.
Timeline of evolutionary theory. (1201) to 1274.
Okay, let's start our class. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you for your responses. So today we will discuss about the timeline of the evolutionary theory. Okay, the theory regarding the evolution, yun sa siya pag-develop. And then in relevance to what we have learned last meeting, which is about descent of modification.
The
Okay.
Seer
And then
Alvin
next meeting, which is on Thursday, that will be our last topic for this quarter, okay, third quarter, maniya siya, prelim to midterm. And then next week, I will give you a timed exam. Okay, I will give you a timed exam. Meaning, you just have an allotted time frame kung kanusa mo makatake sa exam. Beyond that, I will give you another set of exam. Okay? Beyond that time frame, I will give you another set of exam. Nakuha?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
very good. Very good. Okay? So that will be next week. Next week, ibali ato ang exam. Okay? So let's start our class. Now, this material, ako material nga i-discuss karon is from the internet. So nara ang site. So extendedevolutionarysynthesis.com. So kung wala mo diri or wala inyong classmate nga mangutan na siya sa i-discuss nato, they can actually access this site, okay? Para na sila idea kung sa akong i-discuss. Of course, not everything I will tell you, not everything I will teach you today is here in the site. Okay? Of course, nagya po yung advantage kung makatungagid mo ka. Okay? So, let's proceed. So, this is a timeline. So, of course, gikan ta sa pinakauna nga year kung kano sa na-develop ang evolutionary thought until sa latest. Okay? Latest year nga na ay changes sa evolutionary thought. Okay? So, let's start in 1201. This is the 11th century. So 1201 to 1227. So that's like around pila na ka years ago. Ay, pila na ka 100 years ago. So mga 800 years ago. Okay, dana nagsugod ang evolutionary thought. Yung say nagsugod dani sa iya ha. Si Nasir Al-Tusi. Okay, si Nasir Al-Tusi. So si Nasir Al-Tusi, siya ang nakadevelop, okay, sa
Develops
theory
a
of
theory
evolution,
evolution
with organisms gaining differences through adapting to their environment.
Period.
Okay?
He
Theory of
suggests
evolution.
that
Nga,
organisms
dili ka to.
which
Nga, this
gain
is not the same to the
beneficial
theory
new
of evolution that
features
we have
either
now.
have
This theory of
advantages
evolution
over
ni
others and are more variable.
Altusi is something rough draft, kibali siya. Rough draft. Nada tong mga basic sani ideas, which is organisms adapt to their environment. Okay, organisms either retain beneficial features or organisms develop beneficial features. So, minana ang idea sa iyahang theory of evolution. Now, remember nga during this time, around 11th century, this is actually not a dark age. This is actually a golden age for the other part of the world. Okay? Para sa western part, para na sa mga Europe nga part, i-consider ni nila nga mga dark ages. However, sa Asia part, kana dira kana sa mga India, dira sa mga Pakistan nga areas, sa Abu Dhabi nga areas, ngayon na it's actually the golden age for them because a lot of them, they develop ideas, develop what the future had devised, okay, develop sa theories regarding what we are having now. For example, kanang surgery nga idea, sa Europe wala na sa ilaha, dili na nila gabuhaton, pero sa other side of the world nanay mga evidences nga humans in that part of the world actually did surgeries on their people, di ba? Ilahang giabrihan ang lawas sa tao, ilahang gioperahan, then ilahang gisira. Sa Europe wala na siya, sa Amerika wala na siya. Naa na siya sa kasagara mga Muslims ng area na develop, okay, nagsugod. So this is during this time, mga 1200s. Katong itong mga dynasty pa sa China, itong mga emperor pa ang naa sa Korea, apil sa Japan, okay? Katong golden ages sa Asia. Okay? So dana nagsugod yun nga naay kibali groundwork ang theory of evolution. Okay, let's go to Carlos Linnaeus para dali nga pag-pronounce. Okay, si Carlos Linnaeus, he is a Swedish nga botanist. Okay, and then iyahang gi-develop ang modern hierarchical classification system. Okay, siya ang nag-develop ana. Ang pag-use sa term nga class and order. Okay, so a species has a class and a species also has an order. Okay? So a species is either a mammal, okay? So a species is either a mammalian or another type of class. Okay? And then within that class na siya order. So it's either a species is a primate, a species is a reptilian, and so on and so forth. Okay, si Carlos Linnaeus ang nag-establish ana nga system or ana nga order. And then dana pud kibaligi, dili dana. Mao pud na ang gigamit, okay, nga classifications sa other scientists after niya. Okay? Next we have George Buffoon. Okay? So naman ni siya Leclerc, something dili ko ka-pronounce guys kay French. So let's just call him George Buffoon. Okay, you can Google the correct pronunciation of his name. Kay lahi niya siya. It's different in French. Okay? So si George Buffoon actually recognized the dynamic relationship between external environment and living forms. What does it mean? Okay, si Sir George Buffoon, nakita niya ang ang relationship between the existence of, for example, mosquitoes
change over time.
to the kind of environment nga naa ang lugar kung asa na daghan mosquito. So margi nga na ang iyahang na compound nga the type of environment, okay, an area will affect the kind of species it will manifest or it will foster. Okay? So kasagara unsay lugar nga daghan lamok? Sa nga lugar ang daghan lamok? Unsay ginabuhat ni? Ha? Wala ko kadungog, sorry. Unsa to, Justin?
Tropical areas, ma'am.
Tropical areas. Pareha sa tuwa. Okay? Kung asa naaray init, and then naaray rainy days. However, naman gyapon lamok sa kuan, gawas dili lang inga na kadaghan sa tropical country. Okay? Pero mas dali sila mo naghandling. Kaya nga man, unsa din nga environment ang gusto puy-an sa lamok? Unsa inyong gabuhaton gani basta dengue season na sa inyong gina-make sure nga wala sa inyong balay?
Walay stagnant water.
Unused water.
Very good. Stagnant water. Dapat walay tubig nga nakapondo sa kilid sa inyong balay, sulod sa inyong balay, or anywhere near your balay. Kita na magdaghan ang lamok. Dira nila ibutang ilahang eggs, and then it will just take them few days para hatch na nga mga eggs and then turn into another lamok. Okay? So muna ang na-observe nga relationship ni George Buffoon nga kaning area dagan kay stagnant water and then not running water, really just a stagnant water. That's why dagan siyang mosquito. So inga nang observation niya na develop, and then that observation actually influences the theory of evolution nga na-create sa other scientists. Okay? Next nata si James Burnett or Lord Monboddo. Ko kakwanan niya, pero this is the very first few humans nga nag-ingon nga gikan ta sa primates. Okay? Gikan na kuno ta sa primates. Nga makaingon man siya nga gikan ta sa primates, siguro kay na-observe niya nga ang primate nagyapon siya fingers, ang primate nagyapon siya toes, ang primate nagyapon siya skeleton para sa tuwa na siya head, na siya arms, na siya legs, and then na siya feet. Okay, na similarities ang primate sa atuwa. That's why he was one of the few who claimed nga we are actually from a primate. Okay, we are actually from a family of primate, and then we just evolved. Okay? We evolved far from the primates that we see right now, or the other primates that we see right now. Okay? Next, si Erasmus Darwin, nganong giapil man ni siya diri. Okay, nga ang pinaka-merit niya kay siya ang lolo ni Charles Darwin. Pero nganong naka-apil man siya diri. That's because although Erasmus Darwin is actually not considered a scientist, he's more of a poet, he's more of a novelist. However, Erasmus Darwin willed the pen to open the minds of the youth into the possibilities of life evolving from a certain ancestor. Okay? Kanang ang iyahang concept sa light, ako naman yung explain na STEM. Ang concept niya bitaw nga, we actually evolved through time. That's why we are what we are right now. Kanang nga mga concept, iyahang i-include sa iyahang mga poetry, sa iyahang mga novels. Okay? And then, naka-hypothesize sa mga historians nga, maybe these works of Erasmus Darwin actually influence katong mga kabataan nga pareho kay Charles Darwin, which is his apo. Kanang mga youth nga kaidaran ni Charles Darwin because katong time ni Charles Darwin dato gid ni boom. Okay, dato gid ni boom ang pag-develop sa theory of evolution.
1795.
Okay? So next, let's proceed to George. Asa naman to siya? Si George Cuvier. So si George Cuvier actually he drew the attention to the fact that the geological record is not a continuous one. Okay? Katong mga records sa ilahang na nakita nga fossils, itong mga records sa ilahang ilahang na determine nga mga species kay dili siya continuous. Unsay meaning sa continuous?
1769.
Meaning dili continuous ang development from species to
1830.
species. Like how did this species become this species? How can we actually claim these two
Draws attention
birds
to
are
the
of the same
fact
family
that
or of the same
the
ancestors
geological
nga
record
wala
is
nga layo ra kayo
continuously
ilang itsura, okay? And then walay evidences nga
demonstrates the
makasupport
fact
nga
of inception
nag-evolve ang isa
with studies
to
of
further
fossil mammals,
solidify the claim nga
and
they are
release
of
the
the same
extinctions
class,
to
they
have
are of the
occurred in
same
a
family,
series of
and
time
they are of the
floods.
same order. So muna ang kuha ni George Cuvier, iyahang na contribute sa theory of evolution because this question actually is considered in developing the theory that we go by right now. Okay? Nga ba kailangan naatay evidences sa continuation sa geological record ani nga mga species. Okay? Next is si John Baptist Lamarck. Si John Baptist Lamarck, siya ang nag-propose nga simple forms of life were spontaneously generated. They were driven up a ladder of complexity over time.
1809.
Si John Baptist Lamarck, ang iyahang theory, ang iyahang pinaka-contribution yun is katong spontaneous generation. Kabalo mo on sa spontaneous generation, can you recall what is this theory? The theory that states that life came out of a non-living object. Okay? Life came out of a non-living object. Now, ang spontaneous generation ni Lamarck and then the other scientists nga nag-support ani nga theory is ang ilahang guesstion is that
1744.
a dead meat can create a bangaw. Unsa ba kuan sa bangaw? Unsa ba English sa bangaw gani, ma'am? Kung mosquito ang lamok, bangaw is
Flies na.
flies. Yes, flies. Sorry. Okay. So, ingon si Lamarck or katong uban scientist pod nga nag support sa spontaneous theory or theory of spontaneity. Okay. For example, nado kuno kay non-living thing like a meat, a piece of meat.
Proposes that
Dana do
while
kuno
simple
gikan sa
forms
meat,
of life were
maka-create
spontaneously
of
generated,
flies.
okay? They
And
were
then those
driven up a
flies
ladder
will
of
create
complexity
maggots.
over time.
Okay?
Period.
However, is that true? Correct ba na? Nga ang meat ang naka-create sa flies?
Use or
And then
disuse
ang
of
meat po ang
organs and
naka-create sa
traits
maggots?
cause
Is that true?
changes
Do
which
you
could
think
be
that's
passed on
true?
the next generation.
No.
Yes or
No.
no? No, very good. Nganong naay ulod sa meat? Nganong naay flies nga nag-emerge from meat? That's because a meat left in a surface area will attract flies. Okay? Yang i-attract ang mga bangaw, yang i-attract ang langaw. Okay? And then once the lice bears eggs on the meat, kaya kung mukhaon na sila guys, magkuansa na sila, magbutang sila eggs dira nga area to warn other flies nga diri ko ni kaon, diri mag-foster akong mga anak, so diri na ko sila biyaan. Okay? So mag-bear na siya eggs dira. And then those eggs, maunsa man din may tabo sa eggs. Mao din to maunsa man ang eggs sa langaw before siya mahimong langaw. It will undergo first a prior form which is in the form of worms or katong mga maggots nga nakita ni Lamarck dadto sa meat. Okay? So that's the best evidence nga wala sa ilahang naka-disprove sa ilahang theory. However, this theory actually is in relevance to another theory. Okay? Another theory nga mas nag-make sense, mas naay scientific explanation. A theory that follows the theory of spontaneous generation, wherein a life form came out, a living organism or a living thing came out of a non-living thing. Okay? This theory is called the theory of chemical evolution. Okay? Kani nga theory, ang pinaka-best explanation nga nahatag sa scientists to claim kung asa gigi ka ng very first form of life sa Earth. Asa gigi ka ng very first cell nga nag-emerge sa Earth. Okay? So, ang mga scientists nag-ingon nga the very first life nga na-create sa Earth actually came from a unicellular organism nga na-create tungod sa sa content o sa chemical content nga naa sa atmosphere sa Earth during its formation. Okay? Eh, di ba, magbuto-buto man na siya dira, mag-produce og heat ang Earth, mag-produce og dagko kayong dagko kayong eruption sa volcanoes tungod sa iyahang dili pa steady iyahang formation. Okay, so those actually brought gases into the atmosphere that turns into plasma, and then that plasma interacted with another matter that created the very first living organism, the very first unicellular living organism. And then that unicellular living organism manifested in the water. Ay kanmo ni daghan siya sa tubig ba? Okay? And then until sa gikan sa unicellular na imo siyang multicellular, creating another form of species, and then so on and so forth. Okay? So, importante gyapon ni ang spontaneity nila Lamarck, maski nang ilang gihatag nga example is actually disproved. Okay? Next, nata si Grant and then si St. Hilaire. So, kaniya silang duha, ila pang i-develop ang idea ni Lamarck o ni Erasmus Darwin para i-propose nga ang plants and animals actually had a common evolutionary starting point. Okay? Nada kuno sila common ancestor, those plants and animals. So it led back to the creation of the theory, katong chemical evolution nga theory. Next, we have Charles Lyell. So si Charles Lyell established the basic chronology of the tertiary period. Then its relationship to rock strata. Sabot pa sabot ni. Okay, di ba natay geologic time scale? Okay, giunsa man nato pagkabalo nga kaning period, kaning era, kaning aeon is around 500 million years ago. It's around 2 billion years ago. Ilahan ang gimatch, okay? Ilahan ang gimatch sa rock dating nga gibuhat sa scientists. Okay? Ilahan ang gimatch sa rock dating nga gibuhat sa scientists. This rock is hypothetically around 10,000 years old. And then within this rock, nakita nato ni nga fossil. So most probably this species nga atong na-recover from this rock is 10,000 years old or existed 10,000 years ago. So, nga na ang na-contribute ni Charles Lyell. More on the development of the geologic time scale. Okay? Next, we have Charles Darwin. During this year, 1831, the 17th century, so nagsugod ng laag-laag si Charles Darwin. Okay? Unsaon man niya pagkabalo more about sa theory of evolution if dili siya muhawa sa Europe or kung asa man siya during that time. Unsaon niya pag-research more about the organisms, okay? And then the other species present on the earth, and then their relationship with each other. If magstay lang siya kung asa siya nga city ng Puyo. Okay? So he has to travel the world. He set off on a ship called HMS Beagle. Okay? Muna iyahang ship. HMS Beagle. And then this trip, nagkuha siya samples sa flowers, sa plants, and then animals nga naa sa lugar ngayang bisitahan. Okay? For example, dito man siya kasagara, dito man siya pakabot sa South America. And then that area is very different from where he come from Europe. Kaya sa Europe pang good, most areas there is very cold, very wet. Okay, ang season nila. So dato sa South America naka-encounter siya mga lugar, mga lands nga dry, okay, kuan siya mga lands nga tropical. So of course nakita niya nga lahi lagi ni nga plant cases sa amo, wala lagi ni sa amo nga plant, wala lagi sa amo nga flower, wala lagi ni sa amo nga animal. So nanguha siya sample dato mga bag-o sa iyaha. Iyang gidala balik sa Europe para iyahang studyhan. Okay? Next, si Alexander von Humboldt. Si Humboldt. Ako'y pananin niya. Wala. Okay, si Alexander von Humboldt, Okay? Gi-pioneer niya ang study sa ecology. What does it mean? The relationship of species within an ecosystem.
Neanderthal
Okay?
discovery.
So sa iyahan na nagsugod katong interaction bitaw kadumdum mo nga si Althussi ang una nag-present ni mas gi-develop dayon siya ni Humboldt. Okay? So si Humboldt din ang mas nag-develop of theories
Discovery.
regarding sa interaction sa species with their environment. Unsay kanon sa tao, unsay kanon sa ingani nga bird, unsay kanon sa other kind of
and
bird.
bones are found
Unsay
in
kanon dani
Neanderthal
nga
Valley
mammal,
in Germany.
unsay kanon sa other kind of mammal, reptilian, so on and so on. Okay? The next, Neanderthal discovery. So, dani nga here, dani na din nagsugod first na discover ang fossil sa Neanderthals. So, sa gani itsura sa
1858.
ulo sa Neanderthal, unsay mas dako atong ulo, ilang ulo? So, mga Homo erectus. Based ato ang discussion last meeting, ipakita man ginako unsay itsura nila. So, unsa gani differences nila? Ako pagit mong gipa-identify. Kung unsay common nato sa ilaha, unsay difference nato sa ilaha. So, based lang sa shape sa ulo, unsay mas dako sa human, ang Homo sapiens, or Homo erectus? Unsay mas dako ulo?
Erectus.
Homo erectus ang mas dako ulo? Last answer na na. How about the others? Wala na? Katura? Hello, are you still there? Can you hear me? Please tell me if
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can. Okay, makadungog di ay. Okay. So, unsay mas dako gulo ang human, ang modern humans or ang Neanderthals?
Neanderthals.
Neanderthals. So, how about the others? Neanderthals, gipon ninyo ha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Neanderthals sa inyo ang answer. But actually, ang mas dakog ulo, mas dakog skull is the humans. Mas dako katag skull kay mas dako sa datong utok compared sa Neanderthals. So, ang ilahang na-recover nga fossil is very different. Okay? Asa naman to? Is very different from the humans, the fossils of the
Alfred
humans
Russel Wallace.
nga patay na. Okay? Compare nila ang kwan. Tanaw nila,
Alfred
mura man ni
Russel
tao.
Wallace.
Pero kung tanaw nila ang ulo, kwan, pataas.
1823.
Pataas ang baba. Then pagamay ang skull. Okay? Medyo lahi siya og
1930.
structure. So, dili nila to maklasify as human. Then, dana na dayon sila nag-assume, nagsugod nag-assume nga we actually came from
Independently
primates.
conceived
Because
the theory
that
of evolution
fossil,
by natural selection
if
and
it's not human,
co-publishes with
then
Darwin
most
on the
probably
subject.
it's a primate. Okay? Next, we have si Alfred Russel Wallace. So, nakaingon ako sa importansya ni Alfred Russel Wallace, di ba? So, si Alfred Russel Wallace, he came to the same conclusion with Darwin. Okay? About the origin of species or about the theory of evolution. Pareho sila conclusion ni Darwin. Now, this conclusion ni Wallace is very important because he did it without the knowledge of what Darwin did. Wala siya kabalong sa gibuhat ni Darwin. Wala siya kabalo, wala siya kabasa
Charles
kung
Darwin.
unsa na development ni Darwin. He arrived with the same conclusion independently.
1882.
Okay? Nga wala siya naglabot-labot kay Darwin. Now, that is important because it actually
Publishes.
proves na kung unsa man ang gibuhat ni Darwin, okay, is scientifically reliable because it was tested by another independent source. Kung tanawon nimo siya sa scientific point, it confirms the biases of Darwin's findings. Okay? The hypothesis of Darwin. So, inga na ka-importante si Wallace sa development of the theory. Next, we have Darwin now. So, si Darwin, again, is the one who developed
1860.
origin or who published his findings on the book called On the Origin of Species. Okay? So, unsa may suludan na? Okay, so, Darwin, naman to si Darwin. Nawala lagi si Darwin.
Charles Darwin.
Okay. Okay. So si Darwin argued in this book nga humans actually evolved
Oxford
through a
Evolution
process
Debate.
called natural selection. Diba? Na-discuss na nato siya, diba? So, unsa ganitong natural selection niya? Kung kinsa tong naay mas advantage nga feature, unsa tong most katong unsa tong feature nga most advantageous sa ilahang survival, mao to ang mas daghan ma-retain sa lower generation. Atong example ani is katubitong na kay itom og puti nga ilaga. Okay? Itom og puti nga ilaga nga maoy food sa birds. Unsa gani una makita sa bird if it's in the sky?
Puti.
And then ang ilaga kay naa sa nasa ilalom. Kasi una niya makita, ito more puti.
Puti nga ilaga, ma'am.
Puti nga ilaga, very good. So puti nga ilaga. So sa next
Proponents
generation
and
sa
opponents
ilaga,
of Darwin
unsa may mas
and
daghan,
Wallace's
ang puti nga ilaga
theories.
or ang itong ilaga? Ang itong nga ilaga ang mas mo daghan. Okay? So that's the theory of natural
clash in the
selection
famous
ni
Oxford evolution.
Darwin. Okay? Lahi ko di sa yellow mark ha. Lahi siya yellow mark. Kay yellow mark manggod kay magdevelop og trait ang isa ka organism. Dili kay iyahang i-retain. Iyaha Darwin i-retain, iyaha la mark mag-develop. So for example, katong giraffe, iya dito la mark guys. Ito la mark ang giraffe. So ang giraffe mubo siya og kuan. Sa theory
Clash
ni
in the
Lamarck, ang
famous
giraffe is
Oxford
mubo siya og
evolution debate. In
liog.
the famous Oxford
Unya,
evolution debate.
Ang iyahang food kay nara sa trees.
Ay, bungol.
Kung tumo ng trees, maglisod ang giraffe og kuan kaon sa iyahang food. So mo nang
Famous
iyahang gi-develop ang iyahang
Oxford evolution
trait
debate.
with one of its traits. Iyahang na-develop ang isa sa iyahang traits which is its leg, iyahang neck, yung neck. Okay? So iyahang na elongate or na elongate sa giraffe ang iyahang neck. So muna iyan la mark. Ang iyaha Darwin is gi-retain niya through the process of natural selection. So naturally, the environment will retain, or the species within the environment will survive if they have the most beneficial feature. Okay? If they had the most beneficial trait for survival. Okay? So another example kay Darwin sa yung natural selection. Okay, unsay mas maka-survive nga plant? Okay, unsay maka-survive nga plant? Katong plant nga ga-create og own food through photosynthesis or katong plant nga carnivorous or katong trap plants bitaw, mangingana nga plants kanang kailangan mo trap og organism before maka-create og food. Unsay mas maka-survive sa ilang duha? Again, plant.
Katong maka-create og own food.
Katong photosynthetic plants, ma'am.
Yes, very good. Katong photosynthetic plants or katong plants nga maka-create og ilang kaugalingon nga food. That's why katong mga carnivorous plant nga nabilin karon is katong mga gagmay na lang pareho sa Venus flytrap. But before millions of years ago, around 2.5 million years ago, daghan kayo carnivorous nga plant sa Earth. Okay? Mga dagko pagid kina sila, dako pa sa tao. Nya ilang kanon. Okay, ang ilahang kanon kanang mga tiki nga dagko, mga nga na tiki nga times 10 sa size sa tao, so nga na ang ilahang food. No, kung mahurot ang tiki, di na sila ka-survive. Okay? Next, we have the Oxford evolution debate. Now, this debate actually is the start of the debate between the church and the scientists. Okay, the church and the scientists. Dani nga debate nagsugod tong mga theologists, okay? Gina-question ang discoveries sa mga scientists. Okay? Dana nagsugod sa Oxford evolution debate or the Great Debate. This is between Thomas Henry Huxley and Samuel Wilberforce. Okay? Now si Huxley is actually someone nga ga-follow sa findings ni Darwin and Wallace. Okay? Isa siya sa ga-reach out kay Darwin to be enlightened about his hypothesis. Okay? Then gabasa siya sa theory nga gi-publish ni Wallace which is similar to the theory of Darwin. Okay? And then na siya dako nga pagtuo. Daning proponent nila Darwin and Wallace about sa evolution. Now si Thomas Henry Huxley is actually a theologist. Kung theologist ka, unsa imong ga sani imong ga studyhan?
Bible.
The existence of God.
Very good. The Bible or your faith, okay? 'Di ba? Kanang mga proponents sa faith, Christian faith kasagaran, okay? Now, kani silang duha, nag-debate sila, okay? Ang ilahang debate will be Huxley is defending or Huxley is proposing nga we actually evolve from a common ancestor katong mga proponents sa evolutionary theory nga develop ni Darwin and Wallace. And then Samuel will actually defend nga kaniya siya, it does not go along with the recorded
1805.
events nga naa sa Bible or recorded
1873.
notions nga gisulat sa sinauna nga mga tao. It goes against what the faith dictates them to be the origin of everything. So ingana. So nag-debate silang duha. So para sa inyo, kinsa kay nakadaog, si Huxley or si Wilberforce? Kinsa kay nakadaog ani? Guess lang. Kinsa kay nakadaog aning great debate between Huxley o Wilberforce? Si Huxley nga nagtuo sa theory ni Darwin and Wallace or si Wilberforce nga isa ka renowned nga theologist from a Catholic church. Catholic man yun ata to. Dili siguro Catholic. Basta Church of England, okay? A renowned theologist from the Church of England. Kinsa kay nakadaog silang duha? Any guesses? Hello? Any guesses?
Wilberforce, girl, ma'am.
Wilberforce. So, na nagingon si Wilberforce ang nakadaog. How about the others? Pwede ninyo
Same Japan,
i-chat.
ma'am.
So, Wilberforce, gyapon ila ha. Philip. Okay. So, duhan na. How about the others? Pwede ninyo i-chat. Kung dili mo ka-open sa inyong mic. Tanaw na to sa majority nga answer. How about the others? Hello? Doon nakabuka akong estudyante. Ken. How about the others? Di ko ninyo matunggan. Doon nakabuk makadungog sa ako. Si Tubal raw, si Torunueva. Hello? Wala na gyud mo tubaglain? Anton, I see Philip ug si Torunueva. Saba kung last record we yatot. Ajut lang ha. Last record. Anyone? Sila ra duha? Wala na magtubag. Uy, kinsa nakadaog ba? Para sa inyong opinion. Give me your opinion. Walay right or wrong diri. Si Wilberforce or si Huxley? Kinsa kay nakadaog sa debate?
Wilberforce.
Kinsa to Si Badilla og Wilberforce gyapon unsa inyo ha gani?
Wilber, ma'am.
Wilberforce gyapon imo ha Badilla?
Yes, ma'am.
Nag-chat na sa chat box, ma'am.
Ma'am. Pa mo nag-chat 2 minutes after nagrant ko walay nagtubag. Okay. So kasagara Wilberforce. Okay, kasagara Wilberforce. So nagtuo mo nga nakadaog ang theory sa church. Okay, compared sa theory sa scientists. Diba? Kasi Wilberforce man ang ingon. Okay, but what happened actually is it came to a draw. Meaning, walay gi-determine ang Oxford scholars nga correct or wrong sa ilahang duha. Now, what does it imply? That is actually disadvantageous to Wilberforce. The draw is actually disadvantageous to Wilberforce. Nga naman, because it gave Huxley a platform to discuss more about the theories of Darwin and Wallace. Okay?
daghan pa kayo natagaan og opportunity si Huxley nga magstorya sa ubang tao kung unsa ni iyang gituan, kung unsa ning na-develop sa mga scientists nga iyang gi-refer. Okay? So, it came to a draw. However, in a sense, okay, when you look at it in another viewpoint, the one who won is actually Huxley. Okay? Not Wilberforce. Okay? Nakasabot unta mo. Okay? Nakasabot unta mo. Nganong draw siya, pero in another viewpoint, si Huxley ang nakadaog. Okay? During this time, good guys, during this time, prevalent kayo ang faith. Prevalent kayo ang idea nga dapat ang faith, kung sa imong faith, kung sa imong gituan, mo gina imong tuwan all throughout. Dili ka mo question, dili ka mo huna-huna nga dili na siya mao. However, because it came to a draw, because Wilberforce did not secure a sure win, it brought a message to the viewers nga nganong draw man, meaning Huxley is also making sense. Nganong draw man, meaning Huxley has a point. Huxley has a point nga dili ma-defend ni Wilberforce. And then it gave Huxley a platform, and in a sense, it's a win for him because the theory of evolution started widespreading across the Europe and out of the continent. Okay? So, manto siya. So, gusto lang ko makabalo gusto lang ko makabalo kung during this discussion, predominantly gatuo pa ba gid or predominantly you think nga mas makaduog gid ang tenets sa ato ang religion. However, during this time, I'm sad to tell you nga the tenets of the religion is crumbling. Okay? It's crumbling na. It's the tenets of the evolution is breaking a wall through the tenets of the faith. Okay? And then giving a message to the people to have faith in science because we have a good explanation. So, nga na siya, ha? However, wala man gyapon na discredit ang faith. Wala gyapon siya na discredit because the tenets of the faith still lays a good foundation man gyapon between the citizens, between the people. Okay. Next, si Gregor Mendel. So, si Gregor Mendel, so it's more about the genetic inheritance. Okay? Sa genes ang iyahang nakita. Okay? Mo ni siya ang mas naka-explain sa natural evolution process ni Darwin. Okay? Nganong katong pagka-black man sa ilaga ang mas na-retain. Mas na-retain siya kay mas daghan man black nga ilaga sa population. So mas daghan genes nga black ilaga ang napasa sa descendants. Okay? So Charles Darwin again, descendant of man, mag-skip ta and we'll go to the present nga descriptions about the theory of evolutions. Isa pa, sa 20th century 1953, na-discover na din ng DNA, okay? Dani na din nagsugod tong paggamit sa DNA para makakatch of criminals. mRNA was discovered, okay? Isa pa, human genome sequence was discovered, katubi tong mga amino acid, katong UAA, CAA, it was discovered, okay? So Neanderthal genome was discovered, kung unsay genome sequence datong Neanderthal, gi-compare din niya sa human genome sequence, okay? And then the present. Okay. So the present now, guys, ang theory of evolution of the present is laid down, okay, on the conditions of geologic time scale, the conditions of the theories regarding the origin of life, included na datong spontaneous generation, included na datong theory of creation, which is from the Bible, included na datong theory of chemical evolution, okay? So, theories lang yapon sila, but still include sila sa evolutionary thought nato, okay? And then sa evolutionary thought nato during the present day, mas nakabaluta, okay, nga we actually descended, okay, from common ancestors. The different classes of species, the different orders of species and families of species actually descended from a common ancestor which generated differences, okay, which generated new heritable traits generation to generation. Okay? So muna na ang atoang tenet sa present nga evolutionary research, which means nga evolution is still present to the future. Okay? Evolution will still happen in the future. Wala pa ta nag-stop. Okay? Evolution is a continuous process. It will emerge, a new evolutionary phase will emerge in the near future because of the micro changes we are doing in the present. Okay? Again, because of the micro changes we are doing in the present. Now, although naging kung micro changes, what impact gani? Ako na ning discuss sa tong prior studies, prior topics. What impact gani ang nag-push sa uban scientists to claim nga we are in another epoch? Unsa ganito nga impact? Unsa ganito nga human biological impact ang nag-push sa scientists?
Climate change.
Yes, it's climate change. Now, we are doing micro changes, but the climate change is not a micro change. It's actually a macro change. It's causing a huge disturbance in our environment, causing the species, okay, the species inside of it to suffer, okay, to suffer and either go extinct or develop a new beneficial heritable trait. Okay? So tungod sa climate change, which is not a micro change, instead it's a macro, it's a big change, it's a big influence, nag-push ang uban scientists nga mag-claim nga we are not in Holocene epoch anymore. We are in Anthropocene epoch. Okay? Pero wala pa niya gi-accept sa entities nga maoy responsible for the geologic time scale. Wala pa siya gi-accept, still a hypothesis. Not a theory, not a law. Okay? Still a hypothesis, not a theory, not a law. Nakuha? Or not
Yes, ma'am.
officially in the geologic time scale. Okay, very good. Now, okay, kung magyud siya no, trending magyud siya nga topic no, kabalo ko nga nag-open mo Facebook, or mi na siya nakabutang. Let the earth breathe nga mga hashtag. Fight climate change nga mga hashtag. Now, do you believe in climate change?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. What are your bases why you believe in climate change?
Kaning mga trahedya.
Init na kayong panahon mo. Then
Tragedies and then state sa temperature, sa environment. How about the others? So yung basis nga mutuo mo nga na climate change?
Dali nagabaha.
Okay. Phenomena. Okay, unsa pa?
Sige nag-ulan na.
Okay. So muna inyong na-side nga nung muto mo nga na climate change. How about the others? Katong dili gato climate change. Nabay dili gato climate change dire? Anyone? Wala. Or ani na lang. Pila man mo kabuk? Around 31 kabok, dapat mo tubag mo ha. Please tell me, this is a sort of, this is a sort of, a classwork na gyapon. Seat work. Please tell me in the comment section if you believe in climate change. So, ibutang nga, yes, I believe in climate change, or no, I believe in climate change. Okay? Pagbutang lang mo dira, it will serve as your attendance and also taganin ako value, taganin ako point. Okay? As a participation set. So, yes, I believe in climate change, or no, I do not believe. I do not believe in climate change. Okay? So, let's try to see. Lagi, butangi o kwan, naplido, isa pa. Butay, aplido, guys. Butay, aplido. Then, screenshot dayon. Aplido, dayon, screenshot. Kalimot ko lingon. Aplido, then screenshot. Okay? Ayaw mo kalimot og screenshot ha. Inyo nang i-upload karon sa Google Classroom after the class. Google Classroom. Asa man to siya? Okay. Mana? Wala pa, kamulo pa. Okay. After that, nako ipansiran otro sa group chat gyapon or sa Google Meet chat gyapon. Okay, hulatan sa nato nga mawala. Okay. Ana pa si Nunoy. Kajut lang, naka-answer na si Philip sa akong second question. Or sige lang, sige lang. Okay, I want to... Okay, second question. Dapat nagyapon mo i-answer, ani ha? Second question. Okay, why do you believe in climate change or why do you not believe in climate change? Okay, give me a reason. Give me one sentence to explain why you believe in climate change or why you do not believe in climate change. Dapat dili magpareho ang reasons ha. Kung nagani magpareho, 0 mong duha. Okay? Ayaw na kopyahay, Philip, kaya ka na. Okay? Ayaw sa kopyaha sa makauna og comment kay lahat to. So give me your own reason. Give me your own explanations why you believe there is a climate change. Okay, go on. Wala pa nagpasalain. Ayaw kalimot sa kuwan ha, aplido. Ayaw kalimot sa aplido and then sa imuhang explanation. Assignment. Class Google Meet classwork. No, Google Meet classworks. Okay. So this is 10 points. Plus attendance, which is separately. Sa takaro. Takaro lang. Okay. 419. Attach. Na ba? Naka-answer na mo? Okay, nagsugod na. Okay. Okay. In what way? Irinya, give me a kuan. Do not give me a vague answer. Give me a citation nga nung nagtuogin mo nga na climate change. Okay? Like cite an example nga ma'am na ingani nga na agud na climate change. Attach the screenshots of your answer. Hala, ang assignment, wala na ako na buhatan, ginao ko. Okay, si Saraos na last? Okay. Basa-basa tabi. Si Haralas, napay gasulat? Ay, napa di ay. Si Mabilin, okay. Wala na, napa? For the last two assignments. In that PDF or that doc. That doc format. Sa kanina siya, due date na ni is 100 points kay 50-50. Okay. And then, assignments na. Okay. Manan, toro nyo ba last na ni? Okay. So, kasagara sa inyo ang gisite, no? Nga rason. Last na ni si Kabigon, 54321 Dan, 54321. Dan, asay mo ang aplido na Pulvera? 54321 Dan. 54321. Dan. Okay. Dan. Okay? So, kasagara sa inyo ang gihimong rason nganong na climate change is because of the natural phenomena nga inyong naka-experience, no? So, inyong nabantayan nga, ma'am, sa una sa amuang lugar kay bugnaw, karon init na. Tinuod ba?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ba, igang na kayo itong summer. Kung magulan sa sinita mo, kung sa una, kung rainy season, which is actually in June and July, kung rainy season sa una, ang atong ulan, di na kaya nakakusog. Kung sa minita mo karon, pagpaka-create na og, pagpaka-create na og, floods. Very good. Okay. So, maka-create na siyang floods. Okay. Compared sa una nga, kung magulan, ulan lang. Kung maglunok manggali, dira na sa mga tubangan. Pagkahuman sa ulan, mawala ng lunok. Pero karon naka-create pa siya, baha, floods. Okay. Very good. Unsa pa man? Kato dayong, unsa niya? Ay na. Oo. Amo. Kato dayong melting of ice caps, di ba? Paspas na kayo ang melting sa ice caps. However, 5 minutes before the time, I will just explain to you, okay? Unsay rason nga nung na climate change? Unsa gyud pinaka-rason nga nung ingana nato nga ka-experience karon? Kay unsa gyud pinaka-rason nga nung gakabalaka naman ang mga scientists. Okay? This is because of the level of carbon emissions nga naa sa tuang atmosphere. Okay? Carbon emission content kina sa tuang atmosphere. Now, maging gani kag carbon emissions, these are from industries. Okay? Nga gagamit og fossil fuels. Unsa kaninang fossil fuel, guys? Kasabot kabel mo say fossil fuels?
Yes, ma'am.
Unsa man na siya? Asa siya gikan?
Mga dead animals and plants before.
Mga decade organisms.
Yes, dead animals or plants or decayed organisms. Okay? Nga naa nag-exist millions of years ago. Unsa tong gabuhaton sa fossil fuels? We use it for asa na to siya ginagamit?
For energy.
For
Energy
energy.
outsourcing.
Yes. So example, Example of an energy or a fuel that we use daily. Every day.
Electricity.
Electricity. Isa pa.
Petroleum.
Petrol.
Petrol. Very good. Or petroleum. Okay, kanang inyuhang itubil sa inyuhang sakyanan. Isa pa.
Heat.
Heat. Okay, in the form of unsa man? Kalayo or fire. Yung ginagamit nato para pagluto. Saya itong gagamiton para magluto ta except sa kuan. Fossil fuels sa tahan. Ha?
Gasol.
Gasol, LPG. Okay. So unsa pa? Electricity, petroleum or petrol, LPG. Unsa pa atong gagamitan og fossil fuel? Unsa pa? Ora ba?
Woods.
Maura siguro siya. Okay? So, I think maura siguro. Okay. So, kanang inyuhang petroleum. So, that's actually a byproduct, okay, of refining fossil fuels. Pag refining mo sa fossil fuels, may mo siyang diesel, may mo siyang gasoline, okay, or may mo siyang another type of hydrocarbon gas, okay? Or hydrocarbon liquid. And then that's what you use to travel. That's what you use to refuel and to your LPGs para makaluto mo. And that's actually the same. Okay? The same fossil fuel nga ginagamit para sa inyong electricity. Now, kanina yung electricity, guys, na duwa ka sources. Fossil fuels, and then renewable energy sources. What's the example sa renewable energy sources?
Solar energy.
Solar energy, very good. Unsa pa? Wind energy. Unsa pa? Unsa pa?
Hydro.
Hydroelectric. Geothermal. Okay. So daghan no natay upat nga na-identify. However, unsa ra may naa sa Northern Mindanao nga gakwaan nato electricity nga renewable?
Solar, ma'am?
Maria Cristina Falls.
Solar o hydroelectric. Okay, solar o hydroelectric. Now, to think nga daghan kayo tao nga kailangan supplyan ng energy diri sa Northern Mindanao. Diri sa Mindanao gyud. Kaya ka sa atong solar panels o sa ato ang hydroelectric power plants masupplyan tanan?
Dili.
Dili, ma'am.
So, unsay gabuhaton sa gobyerno? Sugtan nila nga mag-create og
Power plants.
coal plants. Very good. Unsay nga sa pinakadulo nato ang coal plant?
Minergy.
Minergy. Very good. Now, kanang minergy, so ang pag-operate na, okay, magsunog na sila coals. Now, what is a coal? Coal is actually a fossil fuel. Now, if it is a fossil fuel, is it renewable or non-renewable?
Non-renewable.
Non-renewable.
Non-renewable. Okay, so kanang gigamit nila para maka-generate sila ng electricity, kanang ilahang ginasunog para maka-create sila ng electricity is a non-renewable source. It's a fossil fuel. Now, unsa may byproduct sa fossil fuel? Kay hydrocarbons man niya siya. Yahang product is carbon emission. Okay? Carbon gases. Now, unsa may mitabo kung carbon gases, ma'am, ang iyahang ma-produce will affect the atmosphere. What happens in the atmosphere is that it's covered by carbon emissions that it cannot breathe. It cannot let a ventilation, it cannot create a good ventilation for the earth. Now, what happens if dili maka-create ang earth of good nga ventilation? It will induce changes in the atmosphere, and then that changes in the atmosphere because subsystem man siya, because subsystem is connected, that changes in the atmosphere, we create an impact okay, on the on the hydrosphere, and it will also create an impact on the biosphere and then the geosphere. Whatever happens in the atmosphere creates an impact on the hydrosphere, geosphere, and biosphere. That's why we experience climate changes. We experience an unusual raise in the temperature, in the mean temperature of the Earth. Kung sa unang mean temperature nato is around, ila ba yung mean temperature sa Earth 50 years ago? Mean temperature of the Earth 100 years ago. Mean temperature. Yung mean temperature is around 0.8 degrees Celsius. Now, it raised, kanang 0.8 degrees Celsius, it was raised by 1 degree. Pag raise niya 1 degree, sinitabo, ice age happened. Kung sinitabo sa ice age, natunaw ang big blocks of ice dito sa Antarctica, which caused the
Rising
katong
sea
nasa
level.
Bible nga, ha? Is that 100 years ago? I think it's last around a couple more 100 years ago. Now, tungod kina-reach siya 1 degree Celsius, which is name mo siyang 1.8 degree Celsius from 0.8, natunaw ang ice. Unsay nahitabo sa tunaw na ice? Unsay mahitabo sa tunaw na ice? Mahimong from solid water, mahimong
Liquid.
water in liquid form. Okay? And then unsay mahitabo sa liquid nga water? Ma-incorporate siya sa present ka water nga sa earth, and then it floods. It floods a lot of the land. Okay? Mao nang naay ecological change nga nakitabo. Now, what the scientists are trying to do is ma-prevent nato nga ma-raise by 4 degrees Celsius ang mean temperature sa Earth. Kailangan ma-prevent na nato siya may tabo. Kaya unsay may tabo kung mahimo siyang 4 degrees Celsius? Now, something worse than flooding will come. Something worse than flooding will happen. Okay? And then, unsay may tabo sa tao nga dili ka-adapt na nga change.
Matay.
Dili siya mamatay pero ma-reduce in population, and then we might be on the verge of extinction. No, do you want your race to be extinct? Do you want humans to be extinct? No, di ba? We do not want that to happen. We want to be sure nga ang atoang apo sa atong anak ug apo pagid sa iyahang anak will survive the earth for the years to come. Mo nang ilahang gusto dili mahitabo. Mo nang ilahang gina-push through nga dapat natay initiation about sa climate change. Because if the temperature is raised by 4 degrees Celsius, then human extinction is inevitable. Nakuha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, unsay buhaton ninyo guys para makakontribute mo? I just want to know if you have plans to contribute.
Plant more trees.
Plant more trees. Aside from planting trees, planting
Delete.
trees,
Save water.
save water.
Conserve
Okay,
water.
unsa pa?
Conserve
Actually,
resources.
conserve resources. Okay? So I hope that you find more initiatives to do para maka-help ta og maka-help ta og conserve sa ato ang environment and the fight climate change. So please open your cameras. Talayo po open sa inyong cameras para sa ato ang documentation. Ayaw mo kalimot og pasa sa inyong mga kuan ha. Inyong mga tawagan ni screenshot tinato siya points. So open your camera. Ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, that's it. So thank you so much for your participation. I will see you tomorrow for our general chemistry class. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Huh? 11:30 pa man. 11:30 pa. Yun nila, kaya alas 12 pa sila maguli.
Okay, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Good morning,
sir.
sir.
Morning, sir.
Okay, murag wala ko nag-announce dala sa inyo nga dili na magklase karong adlaw. What is happening sa inyong section?
Sorry, sir. Nadugay lag human sa subject na mo before, ani.
Chemistry,
Biology, sir.
biology, will it be happening all the time na lang? Do I need to adjust my time? Sino gusto? Mag 11:30 na lang ta every TTH. Then, bawion na ako, let's have 15 minutes discussion and the remaining 15 minutes dayon will be activities, tanan. Kung ma-short ko sa time pag-discuss, it's not a problem anymore. You will do your thing na lang siguro. Okay, so let's continue our discussion about lenses and mirrors. So like I promised, no, we'll be discussing about the formulations, the equations, and everything that would lead us to how are we going to calculate uh, or is there an equation behind the behind the kwan, between the subject and the object? Or is there something sa mirror na need nato mabawaan? Okay. So mirrors and lenses, the development of the mirrors and lenses led to the microscopes and the telescopes. So we had this example last time. It's about how the images are formed when it comes to different type of mirrors and lenses. Most of the mirrors and lenses are using the same equation, but the effect is different. Like uh, not all images that is captured by the lenses is something similar for the mirrors, and not all mirrors also has the same captured code sa lenses. And you know exactly the reason. Although they have the same quantpod, let's say they have the same what do you call this one uh, types. No, we have the concave and the convex and also the flat. The problem is when it comes to equating their uses, they are different. Okay. So when we look for the formation of the images, we actually observe the ray of approximation. It means that you as the person, like for example, the one that is, let's say the one that you as an object is actually creating a ray of approximation. So, kasi pasabutan na, sir. You will not notice it, class, because the center of the center of the object should be the center also of the image. So nakadepende ba na sa type of type of kana sa type? Is it for what? Kinanglan ba nga mirror na siya? Kinanglan ba na siya nga kanang kwan? Kinanglan ba na siya nga lens? But the answer is yes. Because again, it can capture different movement. No? So for the mirrors and lenses. So this is what is happening when it comes if we add equation on how do we observe the mirrors and lenses when it comes to what their kind of their meaning. No? We have an object here and a flat mirror. So let's try to say that the object here will now create its own reflection on the other side of this mirror. So the object distance is somewhat like similar to the image distance. Note the kanang similarity of the two objects. Diba? From the size to from the size to its sa iyang size, sa iyang distance, they're the same. Okay? It's the same thing po kung ikaw makita na na. So if you think that this ball is small, on the image distance po na niya, yung is small po. But there's no difference. The object distance is represented by T is from the object of the mirror or lens, and the image distance is represented by T, which means that is the distance to the result. So there is what we call there's a reflection, but the reflection is not far from the image that was created by the object. How do images form? Images are formed at the point where rays actually intersect. Like if you have an example of a mirror, like the one we had kanina. So the original picture or the original object will reflect on the mirror on its original size and structure also. And on the lenses, there will be medyo different siya. Because if we have here a large amount of sunlight reflected to this magnifying glass, then there will be only a direct ray that will happen. The directing ray here will be from the very wide one niya, wide niya nga kana structure. It will not be narrowed to formulate like this. Can you see the picture, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, we'll be focusing on the basic. So what are the type of images that are formed? Actually, kulang siya, no? Pero let's just try to... Now, real images are formed at the point that rays of the light actually intersect and can be displayed on the screen. Like, the real images doesn't necessarily later nga one kinda like for example ba if you have the color of your eyes, the color of your clothes, the color of the things or the objects reflected on the mirror, for example, you can actually see the real image of that one. You're displaying the same thing. No? There's no actual changes, but when it comes to its kind of when it comes to the size, there will be something change than that. But still, the image is the same. For the virtual images, they are formed at the point that the rays of the light appears to originate. The light appears to diverge from that point, and it will form a virtual image that cannot be displayed on the screen. So most of the virtual image are formed when we are trying to actually see. And for example, if you're talking about the height, no? Most of the mirrors that we have magud karon in our size, but abot magud ito sa other kana paabot magud sa mirror, for example, medyo kulay, virtually ma-change siya. Okay? Kasi ma-change sir, ma-change bang color? No, hindi siya ma-change ang color. Actually, ma-change na ang size mo. So, medyo matkuhan ka, medyo magamay ka. For example, nga na nga kwan, medyo mag-adjust no, ang kanang image nimo from you as an object. Nga mo reflect that to sa sample niyo na. Now, how are the images formed from the object? Actually, there are two rays. No, there are two rays that is being that is being sampled here. Now, the reflection of the object will be a negative dito sa image. So the original and the copied. Okay, so the original here is you as an object, and the copied here is the image. Take note of this one. We have the same. We have the same structure. We have the same structure. We have the principal axis here. We have the center of the curvatures, and we also form angle. Sir, the same ba ang angle na ma-create sa object of the image? Actually, yes. No? As you can notice, no, there is an inverted version of the object when it comes to the reflection sa image nito. Diba? So, it's safe to say that you are not actually, there is 100% of actual copy sa imo as an object. And that's the same thing when it comes to your image. How about, sir, if we'll be talking about the cameras? Now, if the camera is gonna included in this example, there will be a change sa iyaha, let's say sa iyang component. Because sa camera man good, there's what we call adjustable components. No, sa adjustable components man good, the lenses are now being adjusted to actually recreate the situation. So instead of capturing large images, pwede na to siya i-wide. And kung gamay na siya ng object, pwede natin na siya idako. Pwede natin siya i-zoom in and zoom out. Okay? There is also a big impact when it comes to the magnification. If you talk about magnify, kasi what that is, you're trying to you are focusing on the image height and the object's height. For short, you are actually focusing on the height of the sample. So the lateral magnification of the mirror or lens is the ratio of the image height and the object's height. So take note that the image formed by the object is vertical, upright, and behind the mirror. An example here of what kind of mirror is this one? Concave or convex?
Convex, sir.
Convex. So what kind of image do you think is ma-form sa convex, no? So according here, no, the image that will be formed by this one is vertical, upright, and should be behind the mirror. But notice the component consists in this sample. Okay, the change ba ang iyahang components when it comes to atong previous example ganina about images. I think wala, no? The only change na itong mabantayan dani siguro, the component is the same, but I think ang ma-change to dali is ang kanang image, right? Like if the object here is quite large, and then possible the image that will be reflected on the other side will be smaller, and the magnification, the lateral magnification here is observed. So from the very large object to small, or let's do the vice versa, from the very small object to the large. Okay, this is the front, this is the back. This is the center of the curvature, our focal point. Okay, and the focal point here is where the length is actually formed. Okay, this is the length of the focal. This is the kanang this is how the focal length is being calculated. So observe the size of the image compared to the object in this convex mirror. No? Ang iyahang result is quite small rather than the original. So there's a certain change actually, but the component is still the same. You can actually see still the component that is in the mirror and compare it to the lenses, or even the type of mirrors or lenses that will be used in the sample. We'll be observing the same component. Okay. Now, for calculating the magnification is defined by this mathematical expression or equation. We have m is equal to the size or the height of the image divided by or over the size of the object or the object's height. Or you can also say that the h apostrophe is divided to the h, or the h that is reflected or the image is divided to the object. No? So si origin, si copy divided by its original. Magnification does not always mean enlargement. That's what I've been telling you kanina. No? Pwede na to siya i-opposite ang iyang direction. Pwede na to siya pwede na to ma-change ang iyang equation. Okay? Image can be smaller than the object, or let's say that some image can be larger than the object. Now, for the flat mirrors, actually, what you see is what you get. That is the main idea of the flat mirror, because if the mirror does not have any component at all that will actually change the version of yours to for example, no, reflected on the mirror, actually, easy na siya masaktan because observe the sample components here. Okay? Properties of the image can be determined by geometry. So let's try to see that there is a trigonometric equation involved in this situation. One ray starts at P, follows by the path of the PQ, and reflects back on itself. But the reflection that is being bounced back doesn't have any identical it doesn't have any identical impression. What happened here is that there will be a change on its charges. Okay, there will be a change of its charges. What will the change of its charges, sir? The image, let's say for example, the image now will become negative. Okay, the negative image that will be shown in the image reflects the identical component between the object and the reflected. So a second ray follows path of the PR and reflects according to the law of reflection. So, saan ito pagsabot niya? So a radius here is formed. Let's try to see that the radius here is formed because we have naatay na form what we call angle. So we have here a P positive and a P negative. Flash na ni class natin. For example, it's not totally equal. Ito na lang yung example para mas masapta na ito. We have here the object, the reflection of the object and the reflection to the image, and then what else? Okay, that the angle is quite closer, but the resemblance between the object and the reflected image is the same. So, that's the reason why we include the trigonometric equation here, because there is a triangle that will be formed together with the angle. But anyways, wala siya big connection when it comes to the equation. What we are showing here, or what we're trying to find out here is that will the component be changed regardless of the size of the object and its reflected image? So, medyo na identically, they're the same, but the kwan, di ba? That the formulation or the component is the same, but the formulation is will be quite kwan siya. Medyo matandog siya, especially on the angle. No? From this closer angle, may mo rin siyang medyo large one when it comes to actually seeing the real image from the object. Okay, the image is far behind the mirror and the object is in front. So we have P is equals to Q. Okay, so let's try to see that this Blanca linya dani means they are identical. The image is unmagnified when the image height is the same as the object's height. So if the image is the same, it's unmagnified. So we can say that the magnitude here is equal to 1. Pasabot na, no changes was observed. And the only formulation that was changed is the angle. But considering the fact that the object and the image is the same, then we can say that the height of the image and the object is similar. Okay, flat mirror actually convert virtual images. It's always upright, and then an apparent left-right reversal in the image is observed as well. This is actually the left-right reversal, of the object and the image. So these are quite similar. Components are quite similar. Now, how large should it be? If we compare our image to a sample of this flat mirror on the wall, the height here will be divided 2. Pasabot na, the distance here, which is, for example, this is the height of the person. This is who you are. No? You have 5'6" in height. And then our mirror here is only 3.5. That's a 3.3 inches. 3 feet and 3 inches, like that. And then, let's try to see that. This is the flat mirror, and this is so. Your whole height now will be divided into 2 because the sample mirror that we have here is double of the size sa imo sa sample. So what will happen in a situation class is that the distance here will be quite small comparing to the height sa imo as an object. So sir, will the object be ma-change agapon ang iyahang size? Okay. Half of your body will now will now reflect on the mirror, but not 100% of your body will reflect on the mirror. Remember, your whole height can only be seen on the mirror if the mirror na gigamit nato is either convex or concave. But the mirror that we have here is flat man, so what's your height, what you see is what you get. So kung sa imo ang size na makita diyan sa mirror, wala jud na. So the angle here is the same as your height because you are not seeing actually the whole image of yours. You're actually seeing that one lang, the half of your image. So let's try to assume that the angle that was formed in this image is it's quite the same, supposedly, if half of your body also was included on the image. And then the focus here will start from your eye, and the center of curvature will also be seen together with together with the focus. Okay? So, nga na siya. So, mula siya po ang mula siya ang reality bali na actually we are observing this one every now and then. Okay? Like flat mirror ng circle. Okay, kung unsa mong dagway, kung dagway ra jud makita sa mirror ng flat, wala jud na siya makita jud, di ba? Wala nilain. Okay, nasabtan ba ang flat mirror class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm just giving you kanang concept lang sa. Okay. I think I've done up on one. Okay, so concave mirror and its notation. Kindly familiarize this different component. The center of curvature, the principal axis. Okay? Now, The mirror has a radius of curvature. This is the R. This is the radius. So, ano na tayo radius? Just like a perfect circle ng good glass. If the concave mirror, kung imong ipagsapaw-sapaw ta ng concave mirror, like for example, how many concave mirror can we actually see here? Like for example, if we add 3 more concave mirror here, I think makakait tag circle. No? But let's try to see that the center of the curvature here is the focus of this concept. And then, the radius now will actually formulate what we call angle. The angle now can only be formulated if we will be considering also the presence of the principal axis. Now, the line drawn from C to V, the V is the point, is the center of the spherical segment. This is the concave mirror. This is the spherical segment supposedly for the concave mirror. In line drawn from C to V, it's called the principal axis of the mirror. The principal axis that we meant here is that it is from the center of your curvature to the image form that is the point B, which is the center of the spherical segment, or the image that will be created. That is based from the concave mirror's notation. Okay, like this one. So we have here a sample object, no? A sample object here will now reflect, will not actually change. So there will be no change sa iyahang kanang one. Let's say, hindi ma-change ang color sa object when it comes to the concave mirror. But take note, there will be, the rays now will be diverged from an object at a small angle, and then they all be reflected through the same image point I. The difference that will be reflected here is that the light actually passes through the point, so the image that will be formed is a real image. Kung sa may tabo dani sa concave mirror. Okay. Notice ang object, no? So, si object here is nakakreate siya center of curvature. The center of curvature here will now create another sample image from the object. Again, no changes occur sa image. Ha? What's the size of the object? Practically will be, the color of the object, for example, will be the same on the image. But after reflecting from the mirror, the rays will be converged at point I, or the image. Okay, this will be the image point. So if the concave mirror is our example here, kung sa gani ang makreate ng gani image sa concave mirror, di ba? Real image man siya. So, what will happen dayon? Say, yung simitabo dana. Madako o magamay man gani na siyang object class, ang iyang image dana will be the same. So let's try to see the concave mirror here will now invert the image. Okay? Hiwi jud ka, or dako jud ka. So yan na ato ang concept dani sa concave mirror. It's the same thing with this spherical aberration. I'm sorry. Okay? Because rays are generally assumed, or wala sa klasa. Wait lang. Okay. Sino ba ito na? Ikaw na? Ako na sa itik ko. Bakit yan? Sige. Okay, so comparing it to this spherical aberration, rays are generally assumed to make a small angles with the mirror. So when the ray makes large angles, they converge to point other than the image point. The result will be blurred image. This will be the opposite of the concave mirror. Concave mirror might change the size or the height of the object, but take note that it will not change actually the structure of the image. As different sa spherical aberration, because the reflected rays intersect at the different points on the principal axis. There will be let's say that medyo, ano ba tawag ko ang class? Di ba? Kung magpalibat kasi yung mata ng good, you can actually see two images. But one of the images that you will see pagpalibat ka is blurred, right? It's the same thing with the spherical aberration. One object reflected, but many type of images will be created, and that will sort to result to a blur. No? Blurry siya. So, nga na, yapon. So, how can we compare it one to other glass? Actually, kung i-compare natin siya sa mga glass, like, not all glass, like for example, no, let's not consider the fact that the glass is not a mirror, but let's say that translucent glass will be used in the sample. There will be create a blurred image because let's say that there will be a multiple direction of the rays that will be reflected on that specific area. That will cause confusion for the angle capturing the right and perfect image. Okay, so compared to concave mirror man good, yes, the image is perfect, the image is right, but there will be a change of its height. Okay, there will be a change of its size. But the reality between the concave mirror with
Taklo
our
ginagulpin
sample
to
object
ba?
and the image is it's the same. No, it doesn't change anything. It's just the size. This is what happened if you form a concave mirror. And the equation for this one is this. Take note. Now we will later discuss this one. Okay, there will be a lot of things to discuss. Why did we come up with this equation? So, anyways, this is the one. This is how the real image was being formed in a concave mirror. Tanawan ninyo, no? Ang object ug ang image, di ba? Nag-changes may tabo dana sa iyang size. But again, the structure is accompanied by the components, so the result will still be the same. But in reality, again, the size will be different. Okay, now the focal length. If an object is very far away, then we can consider that the object here is an infinite, or 1 over p is equals to 0. The infinite uh, the infinite view of this object will actually be considered as the focal length of the mirror. So the focal length here is where the incoming rays are parallel and the image point is observed. The distance from the mirror to the focal point is now called the focal length. Focal length is half of the radius of what is the real object. No? If the object is quite big, then the image that will be formed will be half of the radius of the curvature. So we have f is equals to r divided by the 2. But kani, sa sample dani, why do you think our object is infinite? Because we will never know which distance is quite appropriate for your focal length to be measured. So if you're too far from the mirror, let's say that you are 5 meter distant from the mirror. The mirror is quite small, and it's a concave mirror, for example. You will never know which part of you, which is your point to the mirror, ang ma-measure na to nga focal length. Okay, again, the distance of the object is, let's say it's infinite. Okay, it's one lang siya. Wala siyang limitation. So, the purpose of this study is for you to think that you have to assume that the focal length is half of the radius of the curvature that was formed between you as an object that is too far to the mirror that can form an image. Okay? Nagets ninyo ang iyang ato ang situation? Again, okay, again, the reason why bito atong gihaf na siya is because wala ta kabalo, no? Wala ta kabalo unsa nga size ang ma-form dana nga mirror if you're too far, or unsa nga size po lang ma-form niya if you're too near. Okay, that's why the focal point here is that you have to identify the focal point based on the center of the curvature, which is you as an object, and then the center of the curvature will now be changed because of the infinite distance between you and again on the mirror. But sample mirror nga itong gigamit. So That is the idea of cutting half the focal length together with its radius of the curvature. So this is what will happen. No? Multiple radius will be, I'm sorry, multiple angle will be formed because of the infinite, or because of the focal length or the focal point produced between the center of your radius to the to the between to the object would. So yan na lang. Let's say that the object is here, no? And then have the center of curvature, and then let's try to see that the image was formed in here on the focal point. Focal point means we can see it, diba? That's the center. This is the source, and then it will now form different angles. Okay. Now the focal point and the focal length can be measured together with an equation uh, expressed by 1 divided by p plus 1 divided by q is equals to 1 divided by f, or 1 over the object plus 1 over the image is equals to 1 over f. Okay? So, sir, ano ba the equation, sir, is definite na ni? Yes, this is definite equation already. We can now actually use this one together with either a mirror or a lens nga discussion. Okay, this is on the 3D version of the how the focal point is formed. This is what you can see. Okay, if, no, the ray here, the parallel ray here, for example, has we will not we don't know which one is the one as ang source study. Pero as you can see, there is an infinite distance that was conveyed here, and then compare it to the focal point that was created. The light was reflected in its multiple direction. Same thing when you talk about the spherical aberration. Okay. On this mirror, I think you are aware of this one, that they are creating virtual images. Okay. They are creating a bright, virtual, and somewhat like more smaller object is being reflected. Convex mirror has a component the same from the concave, but the problem is that there will be what we call reverse. There will be a reverse kind of station, no? Ang reverse na reverse station. But take note again the components are still the same. We still have a focal point. We still have the same center of curvature. We also have here how our object is being reflected and created this image. Comparing to the concave, we have here if the object is too large, then the image here will be smaller. If we compare to the concave, the image is actually makait siya on the center mismo, no, on the outside. But here on the convex mirror, makait siya inside. Okay. So image formed by the object is vertical, upright, and behind the mirror. Okay, for the convex mirror, the equation for the convex will be the same for the concave, but there will be a change when it comes to the sign. A positive sign is used where the light is in front, or let's say it's a concave, for example. The negative sign now is used when the image is now, or when, for example, the ray is now reflected behind the mirror, and then the vertical image will be formed. So negative sign can only be seen if we are trying to actually get the answer from our sample, which is the convex mirror. This will be the diagram for the signs. If it's front, this is to summarize the concave and convex relationship. The P and Q are positive and the P and Q are negative for the other side. Incident light will be observed, and reflected light can also be observed, but there will be no light when it comes to the convex because again, it is trapped already inside to create an image. The flat convex or concave mirror surface. So this will be an example for that one. Either one. So they have differences when it comes to its uses. Okay, let's stop our discussion here. Next, tomorrow. Okay, we will have physics tomorrow instead of kanang what do you call this one? 3 eyes. Okay, because I am now actually kind of reviewing your work. Okay, I am one of the what? I am one of the panel that is checking your work. So I can consider this one as your output already. So this na mag-discuss because manako discuss sa kwan manako discuss sa 3 eyes na coverage. So we'll be discussing the different equations tomorrow. Okay? Any questions so far? Clarifications, violent reactions? None?
None, sir.
How about the
Yes, sir.
others? Okay. You might have a hard time absorbing the topic, but once we go on with our kanang equation, masaptan nila siya. Okay, sa'yo na rin kayo ang mirror and lenses. Okay? So that's it for today, everyone. Please do not let this thing happen again. Magsugot tag 11:30 because short budget kayo discussion, taas pa ba ato ang point. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's it for now. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye. Bye.